What defines a legend in the brutal world of mixed martial arts? Is it the sheer number of victories they rack up, the belts they hoist above their heads, or the relentless pursuit of perfection in the octagon? Perhaps it's something deeper, a combination of grit, resilience, and the ability to stand tall after facing the darkest moments of defeat. A legendary fighter isn't just someone who wins. It's someone who leaves an indelible mark on the sport. Someone who makes you feel something every time they step into the cage. Nate Diaz is one of those rare fighters who transcends the win-loss column. His name echoes through the halls of MMA history, not just because of his impressive wins, but because of the wars he's waged inside the octagon. He's a fighter who has been bloodied, battered, and beaten, yet never broken. From the streets of Stockton to the bright lights of the UFC, Diaz has crafted a legacy not by avoiding challenges, but by facing them head-on, regardless of the odds. It's not just his victories that define him, but the battles he's fought, both in triumph and in defeat. Each scar tells a story, each loss a lesson, and each victory a testament to his unyielding spirit. Today, we're not just looking at Nate Diaz's career. We're diving into the pivotal moments that have shaped him into the fighter and the legend he is today. We'll explore 3 of his most significant losses, moments where he was pushed to the brink, and 3 of his most iconic wins, where he showed the world exactly what it means to be Nate Diaz. Number 3, major loss. Nate Diaz versus Hermes Franca at WEC 24 on October 12, 2006. We start with a fight that many might not remember, Nate Diaz's bout against Hermes Franca at WEC 24. This was before Diaz became a household name, back when he was still finding his way in the sport. Franca, a veteran with a wealth of experience, proved to be a tough test for the young Diaz. From the beginning, Franca's powerful strikes and grappling control gave Diaz all he could handle. Despite Diaz's grit and determination, Franca eventually locked in an armbar in the second round, forcing Diaz to tap. This loss was a tough lesson for Diaz, but it also marked the beginning of his journey toward becoming the fighter we know today. Number 2, major loss. Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal at UFC 244 on November 2nd, 2019. And then there was the highly anticipated baddest motherfucker fight at UFC 244, Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. This fight was billed as a clash between 2 of the most rugged fighters in the game, and it lived up to the hype. From the opening bell, Masvidal took control, using his speed and precision to land heavy shots that opened up cuts on Diaz's face. Despite the damage, Diaz kept pushing forward, refusing to back down. But by the end of the 3rd round, the doctor stepped in and called the fight due to the severity of Diaz's cuts, handing Masvidal the victory. This loss was controversial, as many believed Diaz was ready to turn up the pressure in the later rounds. However, it also reinforced Diaz's reputation as one of the toughest and most durable fighters in the sport. Number 1, major loss. Nate Diaz versus Josh Thompson at UFC on Fox 7 on April 20th, 2013. In the world of combat sports, there are few moments more heart-wrenching than when a fighter's corner throws in the towel, signaling their decision to stop the fight for the safety of their fighter. For Nate Diaz, a warrior known for his toughness and unbreakable spirit, this happened on April 20th, 2013 at UFC on Fox 7 in a fight against Josh Thompson, a fight that would become one of the most challenging of his career. Coming into this bout, Diaz had already cemented his reputation as a relentless competitor who never shied away from a brawl. But Thompson, a seasoned veteran with a wealth of experience, had a plan to systematically break down the Stockton native. From the very first round, Thompson implemented a strategy that was both tactical and brutal. He used his speed, precision, and a variety of strikes, particularly his devastating head kicks, to keep Diaz off balance. In the second round, the fight took a decisive turn. Thompson, who had been landing heavy shots throughout the bout, found his mark with a crushing head kick. The impact was immediate. Diaz stumbled back, clearly hurt, his legs wobbling as he tried to regain his composure. But Thompson, sensing the finish, pounced with a flurry of punches and elbows, pressing Diaz against the cage and refusing to let him recover. Despite the onslaught, Diaz continued to fight back, his heart and determination on full display. But the damage was accumulating, and it was clear that he was in trouble. His corner, led by his brother Nate Diaz, watched in anguish as the tide of the fight turned against Nate. In a sport where corners are often hesitant to stop a fight, especially when their fighter is known for his resilience, what happened next was a testament to the deep bond between the Diaz brothers. As Thompson continued his relentless assault, Nate Diaz made the difficult decision to throw in the towel, signaling to the referee to stop the fight. It was a rare and poignant moment in MMA, a fighter's own corner acknowledging that the damage was too much, that their fighter's safety was paramount. The referee immediately stepped in, waving off the fight, and Thompson was declared the winner by TKO. For Nate, this loss was a bitter pill to swallow. It was the first time in his storied career that he had been stopped by strikes, and it was a moment that forced him to confront his own mortality in the sport. But true to form, Diaz didn't shy away from the defeat. Instead, he used it as fuel, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, he would continue to fight, continue to push forward. This fight was more than just a loss. It was a testament to the heart of Nate Diaz and to the deep respect and love his corner had for him. It was a moment that highlighted the brutal reality of MMA, where even the toughest fighters must sometimes be saved from themselves. But for Nate Diaz, it was also a moment of growth, a step on the journey that would eventually lead to some of the most iconic victories of his career. Number 3, iconic win, Nate Diaz versus Kurt Pellegrino at UFC, Fight Night 13 on April 2nd, 2008. Now, let's flip the script and talk about one of Nate Diaz's most iconic wins, his submission victory over Kurt Pellegrino at UFC Fight Night 13. This fight is often cited as the moment that encapsulated who Nate Diaz is as a fighter. After a competitive first round, Diaz found himself on his back in the second round, but he was far from finished. With incredible technique, Diaz locked in a triangle choke, and as Pellegrino struggled to escape, Diaz flexed his muscles and threw up double middle fingers before securing the tap. It was a moment that perfectly captured Diaz's confidence, skill, and swagger, making it a victory that fans still talk about to this day. Number 2, iconic win, Nate Diaz versus Gray Maynard at the Ultimate Fighter 18 finale on November 30th, 2013. Next up is Nate Diaz's dominant performance against Gray Maynard at the Ultimate Fighter 18 finale. This was the third time these two had met in the octagon, with each having a win over the other. But this time, Diaz made sure there was no doubt about who the better fighter was. From the start, Diaz used his reach and boxing to pick Maynard apart, landing punch after punch until Maynard was left staggering. The referee stepped in to stop the fight in the first round, giving Diaz a TKO victory. This win not only avenged his previous loss to Maynard, but also showcased Diaz's striking prowess and ability to finish fights. Number 1, iconic win, Nate Diaz vs. Conor McGregor, won at UFC 196 on March 5th, 2016. Finally, we come to one of the most talked about moments in MMA history, Nate Diaz's first fight against Conor McGregor at UFC 196. McGregor, the reigning featherweight champion, was stepping up to welterweight, and the world was watching. Diaz, who took the fight on short notice, was seen as the underdog. But as the fight progressed, Diaz's experience and toughness began to show. In the second round, Diaz rocked McGregor with a punch, and when the Irishman shot for a takedown, Diaz capitalized, locking in a rear naked choke. The tap came quickly, and Diaz had pulled off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. His post-fight interview, where he famously declared, "I'm not surprised, motherfuckers," became an instant classic, solidifying this win as one of the most iconic in MMA history. And there you have it, Nate Diaz's 3 major losses and 3 iconic wins that have defined his career. Whether he's winning or losing, Diaz always brings a level of intensity and excitement that few can match. His legacy is one of grit, determination, and an unbreakable will. These fights are more than just contests. They're stories of a fighter who never backs down, no matter the odds. With that being said, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay tuned for more epic MMA content.